This is for those who believe in the potential of science, making brave choices, choosing to push the boundaries. This is why we believe in what science can do.
Good morning, everyone. Much better. Thank you very much, Sean, for that introduction. So this is me. This is where I work. This is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's called the Franklin Institute. Have any of you ever been there? Oh, great. So it's the oldest science center in this country. So it's a pretty cool space, started in 1824. This is me. I know someone's going to get it. Do you know what I'm throwing up in the air? Does anybody know? It's a Buckeye ball. Sean, you have to give him a cap as well. It's a Buckeye ball. It's a really cool 60 chemistry-based compound. But more importantly, I'm actually standing in the foreground of the National Memorial to Benjamin Franklin. That statue is actually the National Memorial, and that's in Philadelphia, while the rest of the National Memorials are here in DC. All right. It's also me. By way of background, I went to McGill University in Canada, Harvard. I'm currently still a faculty at MIT, even though I work in Philadelphia. All right. So I want to start off with some questions. I'm a scientist. I want to collect data. I'm going to ask you all some questions. Show of hands. How many of you have searched the internet today? For those of you in the front, almost all the hands are going up in the back. How many of you have used GPS or MapQuest in your life? How many of you have had a prescription from a doctor in the last 4 years? How many of you have downloaded an app? How many of you play video games? How many of you eat food? And how many of you are sitting in this building? Right? It sounds funny, but I'm asking those questions to just underscore the point that today we are living in a science and technology world. You cannot wake up through the morning and get through the day without specifically being impacted by science, technology, engineering, and math. So, the foods we eat are genetically modified. You're not worried, and I know now you're about to get scared, but you don't think about it for a second. And we're sitting here, and you're not scared that the ceiling with all this concrete and a whole bunch more floors above us is going to come crashing down. We never even think about it. Why? Because architects and physicists and engineers have spent a lot of time figuring this to make it safe. It's everywhere. It's all around us. So where do we go from here? Well, this is the National Academy of Engineers. There's a group here in DC called the National Academy of Engineers, basically the best engineers from around the country, and they came up with, about a decade ago, 14 grand challenges. I won't go through all of them, but everything from getting clean water, to getting energy from solar, to securing cyberspace, to engineering better medicines. These are 14 challenges that if we can solve them, we'll make America a better place. In fact, we'll make the world a better place. So the question is, how do you solve these grand challenges? Well, you all know the answer. Let me hear it. Science, technology, engineering, and math, otherwise known as STEM. All right, what I want to do is I want to walk you through some really cool things that are happening right now in the 21st century related to STEM. We'll start off with nanotechnology. Does anybody know what nanotechnology is? Someone in the back shout it out.
So nanotechnology is the science that investigates the use of nanomaterials.
Perfect, exactly. And nano means very, very small. Micro is times 10 to the negative 6 meters. Nano is times 10 to the negative 9. All right, so very, very small. You can't see it. So these are something called quantum dots. They're just chemoluminescent particles that have a capacity of really emitting very, very bright colors. Right? Here's what they look like in liquid form in these little tiny jars. What are they used for, you might say? Well, for example, remember your biology class? Remember when you're sitting there and you took your cheek cells or the onion cells and you looked under the microscope and your teacher was asking you, do you see the membrane, Susie? Do you see the membrane, Frederick? And we all lied. Yes, I see the nucleus. Yes, I see the membrane. You don't really see it. It looks a little pinkish, a little grayish. Well, this is a series of cells that are stained with these nanoparticles. I mean, you can go to a grade 2-year-old child and show him the membrane, the nucleus. You can even see the DNA there in pink. Unbelievable. And this is just basic nanoparticles. But even cooler than that, this looks like conventional paint. It's not. It actually has these chemoluminescent particles in them, and you take the paint and you roll it on the ceiling or on your wall. You take a very small electric charge through wires, put it in there, and the ceiling will glow, changing lighting forever. How cool is that? So as much as CFLs are good and LED lights are good, lighting in the next 10 to 15 years or so is going to be dramatically different. Now, you can't get it at Home Depot, so don't rush over there and say, I met this guy, Dr. Fredrick Bertley said it's available. It's not available yet, but the technology is getting us there. What about the field of engineering? Any cool changes, discoveries there? Sure. Who likes cars? All right, I definitely like cars, right? So here's a car. The problem with it, aside from the fact that I can't afford it, is also that it's just super bad for the environment. Well, some colleagues at MIT, at the MIT Media Lab specifically, are working on a new kind of car. This car actually folds up and can seat 2 full-grown adults. Here are the prototypes of the actual car. Imagine that. You won't own your car anymore. You'll check it out like a grocery cart. You'll sit in it. You'll drive where you need to go in the city. It's 100% electric, low pollution, low carbon emission, reduced traffic, and absolutely cool. What about this? Does anybody know who this is? Perfect, Dean Kamen. In fact, Dean Kamen is going to be speaking later today. I think he's on around 11:30. So Dean Kamen is one of the greatest inventors of our country. He has over about 500 patents right now. You all know him for the Segway, but he's made a really, really important invention. You're looking at them, those 2 black boxes. What they are is they're called the slingshot. And they make purified, drinkable water out of any liquid source. Now use your imagination. I mean any liquid source. And you know, you and I take it for granted. You go home, you turn on our faucet, we can drink the water, we can shower. But about 2/3 of the world does not have access to clean water. And so this is now being tested in about 120 villages around the world, bringing clean water to people that used to have to hike 8 hours for a bucket of dirty well water. Not only is this important for thirst and nutrition, but also hygiene and whatnot. This is revolutionizing the access to clean water for the globe. What about the field of communication? Anything cool there? Well, I don't have to convince you that we are living in a complete digital communication age. And if you don't think that's true, try to wake up tomorrow morning and get through the day without tweeting, texting, emailing, surfing the net. I bet you can't do it. It's so hard for us to do that. We're so dependent on communication. So much so that this is a Maasai warrior, so a group of a tribe in Kenya. If you give him a conventional cell phone, so not a smartphone, but a conventional cell phone, he will have access to more information than Ronald Reagan when he was president of this country. And if you give him a smartphone, he will have access to more information than Bill Clinton had when he was in the White House. One handheld device and you have access to the world of information. Unbelievable. All right, what about the field of genomics? I'm a life scientist, so I'm gonna get really excited right now. In the field of genomics, who's this? Great. You guys remember the name of the movie? Finding Nemo. So I got some good news, and I got some bad news. I'll give you the good news first. The good news is we found Nemo. It's a true story. The bad news is we immediately pulled out Nemo's DNA. What do we do with his DNA, you might ask? Well, we cloned it, meaning we made photocopies of it, for example. And so we cloned it using a process called bacterial cloning. And then what did we do with the gene from Nemo? Okay, pardon? Good. One, if we were smart enough, we would have made another Nemo, but we didn't do that. Any other guesses? In the back? Okay, so did we make other animals? Interesting, kinda. So I told a little fib. It really wasn't Nemo, but it really was a fish. In fact, it's a Canadian Arctic whitefish. It lives in the Arctic Ocean and survives fine. If you or I fall in the Arctic Ocean, we'll die in about 15 minutes because we can't thermoregulate. We can't handle that very cold temperature, and we'll just die from hypothermia. But certain wildlife, including this Arctic whitefish, swim fine. So scientists, we pulled out the gene, we cloned it, and we put it in tomatoes. Why? Not because we wanted the tomato to taste fishy, but if you're a tomato farmer, you know that you could spend 4 months growing your tomato crops, and you get that one frost in late September or October, and you lose your entire yield, right? If you're not impressed by that, we also put this stuff in certain wheats and beans and different things that can now grow in desert areas. Again, a lot of the planet doesn't have access to arable land or soil that can grow because they have too low of rainfall. And so now people are growing wheat and beans in places that have absolutely low precipitation, bringing food to people or letting people create their own food, grow their own food in ways that they couldn't in the past. All right. So I hope all of that kind of underscores, by way of example, that we really are in a high-tech 21st century. So what about jobs? All of you, I'm sure, are interested in getting jobs. Well, I'm sure you know this, that STEM occupations far outnumber non-STEM occupations. And in fact, in the year 2018, they're suggesting that 50% of all available jobs are going to be directly or closely related to STEM. For example, this is what you can do with just a college degree in biology. Here's all the different jobs you can do with just a college degree in chemistry. And I'm not talking about getting a PhD or a master's. I'm just talking at the bachelor's level. Here are all different kinds of engineerings and the engineering disciplines. Same thing with physics. They are oodles and oodles of opportunities. So if STEM is really everywhere and super exciting and cool, and the innovation's all around, and there's promising careers for all of us, what's the problem? Well, there are two problems. Problem number one is we need to do some basic math for career choice. We need to make sure all of you and all of the next generation after you understand that it's infinitely easier to become a scientist or engineer, biologist, environmental scientist, whatever your fancy, than it is to be an actor or actress or entertainer, right? Why is this important? I'm going to get to this in a minute, right? The second issue is if I ask all of you, and you guys are kind of geeky, nerdy, so it might not work on y'all. You guys are great. But if I were to ask a general audience to name a scientist, what's the first scientist that comes to mind? Albert Einstein. I can't make it up. This is not a magic show. Albert Einstein. And if I'm speaking to women and I say, hey, women, name me a scientist, who do women say? I can't make this up. This is not a trick show. This happens all the time. And then if I'm speaking to an African-American population, during Black History Month, and I say, name me a scientist, they will all come up with George Washington Carver, the guy who did the work with peanuts and oils and colors and la la la, right? Well, okay, that's great. But if I then ask you to name me 3 living scientists, listen, I'm leaving. This is over. It's true. It's amazing. When we ask for scientists, we hear either dead people. If we ask to name 3 scientists, people can't do it. At best, they come up with one, and it's that, the weird guy, he's in a wheelchair, I don't remember his name. This young man, of course, does know his name, Stephen Hawking. That's great, but there's a big problem. Aside from Stephen Hawking, he's still alive, the other folks are dead. And if you're trying to inspire the next generation, and you're competing with Jay-Z, Rihanna, and all these entertainers, and the only scientists you know are old, dead people, that's a problem. So the question is, are they live scientists that we can celebrate? Well, let's look at this. Quiz time. Crowd participation. Who are these people? I kind of gave it away. Morgan Freeman. Does anybody know the person on the right? Okay, good. Give her a prize. Great reader. So it's Professor James West. Does anybody know who Professor James West is? Does anybody have a cell phone? Come on. Does everyone have a cell phone in this room? All right? Every single cell phone on the planet has a technology in it called the electret microphone, invented and patented by this guy and his German colleague, right? So imagine matter of fact, they had cell phone technology. One of the other people who's speaking, Erwin Jacobs, he's kind of the father of the cell phone piece in terms of the other stuff. He's speaking here today as well. But nobody knew how to make a microphone small enough to fit in that. So if you look over there at that conventional microphone on the stand, imagine you had to put that in a cell phone. Well, you'd be pulling your cell phone behind you in a wagon because it'd be so big. This gentleman figured out, he and his colleague, how to make this microphone. It's in every single cell phone, and none of us, myself included, heard about him before I learned about him, right? All right, keep it going. Anybody know the person on the left? On the left? Oh, someone said Ben Carson. That's great. He actually acted Ben Carson. That's the first time that happened. It's Cuban Gooding Jr. It's a famous actor. Person on the right, probably never heard of him. That's Dr. Mark Dean. He's the senior vice president at IBM. He's the person who holds the 7 original patents for the personal computer. The original computer was invented in Philadelphia. It's called the ENIAC. It was literally the size of this room, and I'm not exaggerating. So next time you use your cell phone, realize how far we've come with technology. But this gentleman was the first person to patent this wafer thing that you're seeing there that allowed computers to get shrunk down to a desktop size. All right, we never heard of him, yet we all use computers. Everybody, of course, knows Oprah. This is Dr. Betty Pace. She is working on curing sickle cell anemia, right? We all know Tiger Woods. Person on the bottom right, that's Dr. Arlie Petters, a physicist at Duke University who's working on Einsteinian relationships and just really moving that field of physics and mathematics forward. Yet we don't know them, but we know all the actors or athletes. So a lot of time when I show those slides, people tell me, oh, we understand, Dr. Bertley, but you know what, you showed us black scientists, it's really a black community problem, we don't really know. Well, let's keep this quiz going. Anybody know the person on the right? Anybody person on the left? All the women are like, yes, that's Brad Pitt, the dashing actor, da, da, da. Okay, so we know him. Person on the right is Dr. Stephen Squires, right? You heard the question earlier about Apollo. Well, right now we have missions on Mars. And currently we have a rover on Mars called Discovery. The rover before that was called Curiosity. And, sorry, I reversed that. The current one on Mars is called Curiosity. The one about 8 years ago was called Discovery. And these are the 2 scientists behind that. Imagine they shot a projectile from planet Earth. It made it to Mars, landed on Mars, and collected data all the time. I have trouble starting my car in the winter, and these guys are getting stuff in Mars. Unbelievable, but we don't know them. Everybody know the person on the right? Martha Stewart, right? Famous celebrity. Person on the left is Dr. Sandra Faber. She discovered black holes. How cool is that? I mean, I like basketball, but I'd rather be her than LeBron James. I mean, bragging rights, yes. I discovered black holes. I mean, that's a pretty cool statement, right? But we don't know who she is. All right, how about this person? Everybody knows the person on the right, the famous actor. The person on the left is the father of the internet, Dr. Paul Barron. He invented something in the 1970s called packet switching, which was the precursor to the internet that provided us the technology that we have today. Of course, we know Jackie Chan, the great actor. Anybody know the person on the right? Some of you might know him. He was one of the first TED Talk sensations. His name is Jeff Hahn, and he's the person who, at the young age of 21, invented the touchscreen. So the next time you use your iPad, your iPhone, you're at the bank machine, or any kind of touchscreen, this gentleman did it, and he unveiled it to the world at a TED Talk. You can Google it. Fascinating stuff. All right. So the question is, why do we know more singers, actors, athletes than we do scientists? Well, I mean, all these faces, we all recognize them. One of the reasons, people think it's money. Oh, they make a lot of money. Well, that's true. The average basketball player or singer dancer makes a lot of money, no question. But they don't even make close the money from the richest people on the planet. The richest people on the planet are STEM experts. When you think of Mark Zuckerberg, when you think of Larry Page and Sergey Brin, the founders of Google, Bill Gates with Microsoft, I mean, these people are in the billions and billions of dollars, and it's all because of technology. The next time you use your handheld device, it is mathematics, programming, computer science, electrical engineering, all these things around STEM that made that possible, and that's why this guy is smiling. All right. It's not because they make money, it's because of the media. The media spends so much time emphasizing sports and singing and dancing and entertainment, which, again, I'm not poo-pooing on that. I love entertainment. I love sports. That's great if that's your fancy. But there should be a balance. And that's why this conference, the Science and Engineering Festival, and especially this XSTEM type space, is critical that it happens. And I commend you all for putting it together. So with that, this is where I work. This is the Franklin Institute. Real quick, this is our mission: to inspire a passion for learning about science and technology. We do that through many ways. We have exhibits. We had King Tut, Body Worlds. We had Cleopatra, mummies. At this point, we became known as the Museum of the Dead. Wasn't good. We wanted to change that reputation, but we didn't succeed, because then we got Pompeii, more death. But then we moved it a little lighter for kids. We had a program called, in collaboration with Sesame Street, called The Body. It was an anatomy program showing kids the different parts of the body. Just to tell you how my job really works, this is me hanging out with Elmo. They make me do this, I swear. All right. We also had one called Animals Inside Out. That's looking at body worlds, but from the animal perspective. Currently, we have the Art of the Brick. Who likes Lego? Well, you guys, if you come to the Franklin Institute, you can email me. It's fbertley@fid.edu, or just Google Fredrick Bertley. You'll find me. If you come to Philadelphia, you come to this exhibit with your friends and family on me for free. It's an amazing exhibit. It will be there until September 4th, so you got to get there sooner. Just say you met me here at XSTEM. We also have traveling exhibits. This is the Giant Heart. This is Amazing Machines. These are exhibits that we actually build and stay there on our building. We have one called Changing Earth. I want to go back here because it's actually really cool. This is an environmental exhibit, really talking about how the planet has changed because of the good and bad stuff we have done as humans. You can't be a Franklin Institute without having an exhibition on electricity, Ben Franklin being the father of that. And last year, we unveiled a brand new exhibit called Your Brain. This is the largest neuroscience exhibition in the country. 8,400 square feet with over 75 interactives, really getting you to understand how neuroscience works and how your brain operates. And so we have this cool climbing structure where you climb through the brain acting like a thought. It's really cool. We also have a program called Color Science, talking about all scientists aren't old white men with thick glasses and pocket protectors, that everybody can be a scientist. Women make fantastic scientists, and of course, persons of color. We also have a Philadelphia Science Festival that's actually going on right now. It's kind of like the Science and Engineering Festival here in DC. We have 110 events over a 9-day period all over Philadelphia, really making science accessible for everybody, little ones to old ones alike. We have a robust youth program, really getting the young people engaged in amazing science, technology, engineering, and math programs. And so why do we do this? 2 reasons. One, picture's worth 1,000 words. Look at this little girl. This is the daughter of a colleague of mine. She is 3.5 years old in this picture. She is so curious about that butterfly. And that's the point. Kids, by definition, are born curious. That's how you learn to walk. That's how you learn to talk. And so we got to make sure there are enough programs like XSTEM and other programs to really maintain that curiosity so kids can stay engaged in STEM disciplines. So we want to change the old school bus, which has one lonely boy, the old science school bus, waving to his mom, to make it a new science bus where there's all kids on it, black and brown kids, boys and girls, all smiling. And second reason, quickly, why we do this is the last set of questions for all of you. What do these people have in common? Do you know what that is? Top left? It's a young picture of Einstein, that's right. We talked about these guys, Larry Page, Sergey Brin. Does anybody know who this is? This is Rosalind Franklin, the third person responsible for DNA. Right, you know James Watson, sorry, Watson and Crick. Well, so the third person who was involved in that was Rosalind Franklin, an amazing scientist. This is Bernard Sessler, an amazing roboticist working for the Navy. This is Jeff Hahn, we talked about him, Bill Gates, Marie Curie, we talked about her, Mark Zuckerberg, and Barrington Irving, the youngest guy to solo fly around the world. What do all these people have in common? Shout it out, somebody. They're scientists, what else? They make discoveries, what else? Great, they had major perseverance. One more guess, because none of you have hit it. Bingo, they're young. Marie Curie was the oldest of the group. She was around 26 when she was working on radar. Mark Zuckerberg was 18 when he started doing his coding for Facebook, working in his dormitory at Harvard. He flew around the world at 23 years old, smashing the record. The person before him was 37. Right? Albert Einstein, general relativity at 26, special relativity at 21. Jeff Hahn, 20. My point is, they were very young. It's the power of youth. And I say that to all of you because if you have ideas, if you have dreams, now is the time to move them forward. You guys are going to be responsible for changing this world, making it a better place. And so to that, I say congratulations to all of you. Thank you for listening to me. And I look forward to following your STEM careers in the future.
Thank you very much.